if everybody's ready, shall I just go ahead and kick off? Right, I'll try to, I don't know if this is mic'd up or not, I will try to get us back onto track by wasting a bit of your time for the next 25 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Kristan Rivers, and I'm here to talk to you about forging successful cross-industry partnerships. I'm with Eden Games. You guys might have heard of us before. The company's based in sunny Leon, has been around for 20 years, has done a number of famous car racing games, the V-Rally franchise, Test Drive Unlimited, Need for Speed Porsche. The company they live and breathe cars, as you would imagine. In fact, the company kind of has to, right? You know, they have to have their legs in two different industries: the automotive industry and the car industry. So that's the type of people that we're looking for, people that are passionate about both of those industries, and just kind of show that passion and kind of what we do as a company to kind of foster that. Every year, the company takes a week off and goes and participates in the World Karting Championships, the 24-hour endurance karting championships. Folks in the company, the CEO on down, have driven a number of cars, from the Carrera 4S, a variety of different Ferraris, Subaru Impreza, Lotus Elise, Aston Martin Vantage, both on track and on road. And in fact, the CEO participated in the Ari Vantanen rally driving school as well. So it's all lots of fun, and it sounds a bit like showing off, but in our business, we call it research. So. Myself, I come from, like the company, I kind of straddle two industries as well. So I spent about most of the last 15 years out in Asia, working both in interactive entertainment, so games companies, in fact with a couple of people that are in here, and also with linear entertainment. So I worked for Paramount Pictures for 5 years doing distribution there. So it is kind of interesting, because a lot of what we're seeing now is a kind of merging of those industries. Now I'm going to show you the game, and I wasn't going to show the whole trailer, but because we've got some time, I'm just going to go ahead and let you see the whole trailer, if that's okay. So there you go. Very beautiful game, great graphics, great fun gameplay within it. You could kind of think of the premises of the game as kind of real racing meets CSR. You've got the reality, the realistic driving of real racing, and the collection and modification of your garage of cars that CSR has. We like to aim a little bit higher than that even, and we kind of like to aim for, if Gran Turismo was a social club, that's the target that we're aiming for. The game launched October 27th. We had October 27th of 2016. We had great featuring worldwide from Apple. That was on iOS. And we got 1 million downloads in the first 5 days. So it was a fantastic success. We were very happy with that. We've gone on now to launch on Android as well, and we're well over 3 million downloads and continuing to grow. Now starting to look at other app stores. Now, in the video you saw, there was over 16 different non-gaming brands in that video, all car manufacturers in that video. We have to work with the manufacturers, right? That's what makes that's part of what to our audiences is the idea that you get to drive the cars that you lust after, the cars that you desire. In the game today, there's over 30 different cars in the game playable today from 20 different car manufacturers. We actually have licensed well over 100 cars, almost 200 cars from 20 plus car manufacturers. And to be very clear, the economic model for that licensing, the car manufacturers don't just give us those cars out of the kindness of their heart and let us use it. We have to pay them. And every time we license another car, we have to pay a not insignificant amount of money to the manufacturer to use that car in our game. Now for a small company, 35 guys out of Lyon, that starts to eat into our R&D budget, into our development budget significantly. So what I'm tasked with is trying to figure out how to turn that equation around a little bit, so how we start making some money from these things instead of just having to pay money all the time. One of the things that our CEO likes to impress upon everybody within the company is, just as this game is our kind of pride and joy, it's what we've spent all our time on, these cars that we license from McLaren, from Roof, from Mercedes, from Aston, these are their jewels, right? These are their pride and joy, and we have to treat them with respect. We have to bring them into the game and not just kind of slap it into the game, make it look okay, go with it, but make it have the kind of feel that the audiences are expecting, that the car manufacturers expect. This is what, this is their pride that we have to treat with respect. In that kind of concept of working with the manufacturers and working with brands and starting to help kind of monetize this to some degree, at least create some value for us. The first automotive partnership that we had, beyond just a license, was with Chevrolet. So this was in the pre-launch window, before we'd even launched the game. Chevrolet had announced the Camaro 50th anniversary, and they were looking to create publicity around that car, to create attention around it. We, of course, were getting ready to launch the game, so we were also looking for any kind of attention that we could get on the game. So we worked with Camaro. We had a joint media campaign with them, and we had a pre-registration campaign where you could win the Camaro, the in-game Camaro, as one of the kind of prizes. It was a viral campaign. It was successful in and of itself. We did get a lot of attention around it. Very honestly, we probably didn't get as much as we could have. And we point the finger at ourselves on this one. This is one of the kind of first learnings that we took from working with brands, especially large brands. We're a small company. We move very quickly. We don't have time to sit on decisions very long. Chevrolet are the exact opposite. They are a 100-year-old company with tens of thousands of employees around the world. Their marketing department is larger than we could even conceive of. It's the size of some small cities. So we didn't really appreciate that when we started working with them. And very honestly, we didn't really also understand all of their motivations around the Camaro. So it was like I said, in and of itself, it was successful. Camaro are a great partner of ours. One of the first two cars that players buy in the game today is a Camaro, and of those 30 plus cars that are in the game right now playable, 3 of those are Chevrolet. So we continue to work with Chevrolet, and we will get better at this. We did take that learning though and took it to our next brand campaign. And this was working with McLaren. Now this was right at the launch window. McLaren had their own hero car that they wanted to promote, which was the 570S. This is McLaren's entry-level car. It's only 140,000 pounds. So it's their starter McLaren. Beyond kind of promoting McLaren, the 570S, McLaren also wanted to promote the brand. It is an aspirational brand. They do have other kind of ancillary consumer products that they hope to drive sales or interest in as well. But we started to have a better concept of how to understand the motivations of our brand partners with this campaign. So we worked with them to bring the car into the game, and because this was a very expedited campaign to get this into the launch window, we had to work very quickly with them, and this again helped us to understand how to push the car manufacturers to move towards our timescales a little bit. There was still some learning for us, and I talked to you about that kind of concept of treating the cars as their jewel, as their pride and joy. The level of detail the cars that we have in the game, we feel there's a lot of detail to them. We don't just render the outside, we don't just model the outside of the cars. We model the engine. You can lift the hood or the boot and see the engine. You can see the interior of the car. And during one of the turns of our approval process with McLaren, they pointed out that we had the wrong horn button on the horn. So we had to fix that, and we did, and we got it out. And we created a video to promote the 570S as the first car in the game. You might turn this one up a little bit if you can. Okay, so that video went out not just on our own social media channels, as you would expect, but also on McLaren's social media channels. So it went out on their Twitter and Facebook channels and Instagram as well. Now we started to kind of turn the equation around a little bit, working with our brand partners. With this particular campaign, now what I'm about to say, my CFO will disagree with me. But with this particular campaign, if you look at the downloads that were driven specifically by the campaign, by the call to action to go download this game, and the additional press that was generated specifically around this campaign, around the launch window, and you compare that to the CPI that we pay today to get downloads of the game, mathematically, like I said, my CFO will disagree with me, but mathematically, McLaren actually paid us to have the car in the game. It drove more downloads than we would normally have to pay for it versus the cost of this campaign versus the cost of licensing the car. So we started to get a little bit better at this, and we're starting to see, okay, right, we see a way forward for how we might do this. Now, it's not just about car brands, right? If you think about sports games in general, sports games are perfect for native advertising, for bringing brands into the game. There's so many types of automotive brands even that we should be working with within the car racing sector. You know, things like wheels, rims, brakes, Brembo brakes, Willwood, whatever, exhausts, these sorts of things. And of course, tires. You know, tire manufacturers are some of the biggest spenders in the advertising world, believe it or not. You know, you've got Yokohama with Chelsea, Inter Milan with Pirelli, I think Nexon with Man City. There's probably people in here that are much bigger football fans than me that can kind of tell you a little bit more about this. So it makes a lot of sense. In fact, when you think about it, sports games are probably kind of a natural fit for native advertising, right? Not only is it acceptable to have brands inside the game, it's kind of expected, right? You know, it'd feel kind of weird if you were playing an F1 game and you didn't have Rolex signs coming past and Pirelli signs going past. It wouldn't feel right. So the movie world has kind of been thinking about this for a while, the movie and TV world. You know, one of the other kind of issues is consumers are getting immune to advertising, right? On the movie and TV world, like I said, they've been thinking about this for a while. People are skipping past the ads if they're watching this stuff on TV. If they're watching a movie on Netflix, they're not even seeing any ads. So the movie world's been doing this. They've been doing native advertising, sometimes good, sometimes bad, bringing the brands into the content itself. You know, you could kind of think from, you could almost argue that a car racing game is probably the purest form of native advertising. You've got those cars in the game. You have to have brands within the game. So in the mobile world, you know, we're starting to kind of go down this path. Advertising, you know, we talked about our consumers being kind of immune to the ads. You know, the advertising that we have in the mobile gaming world today doesn't work very well. It's not very pleasant from a player perspective, right? You either get an interstitial ad that pops up, takes over the whole screen, and you sit through it. And unfortunately, from the developer's perspective, 9 times out of 10, that ad is for another game, right? All you're doing is just driving your players over to your competitors. Or you've got these banner ads at the bottom or top of your game. And I would maintain that nobody in the history of the world ever has clicked on one of those banner ads on purpose, right? So we've been thinking about this, and you know, this isn't rocket science. In fact, this happened before. You know, you had Massive, you had IGA Worldwide, you had Double Fusion that were looking at bringing advertising into the games. In fact, we worked with Test Drive Unlimited 1, we worked with Massive, this is from Test Drive Unlimited 1, to bring this type of advertising into the game. But just as all the pieces haven't come together yet, so we're kind of having to do this ourselves. So, we started looking around, where else are there some good examples of how games are bringing native advertising, or bringing brands into the game and making it a little bit more of a compelling experience, both for the brand and for the player, and of course for the developer. A couple ones that we really like. Personally, I would say I like Steep. I think Steep is a great example of how to bring brands into the game. Whether it's Red Bull, that would make a lot of sense, or Solomon for skis, the North Face for wear, but even like GoPro. And there's this GoPro view, a GoPro drone view within the game. Fantastic, great idea. On the mobile side of things, there's Football Manager, Rovio. There's other companies that are doing this in-house. You look at EA, Zynga, they're doing a great job of trying to bring the brands into the games. We're not of that size, though. So we look to these types of companies, and Rovio for that matter, to try to take some of that learning away and figure out what can we apply to what we do. So we started looking at the potential brand inventory that we have. Now, within a car racing game, there's very obvious stuff, right? There's a start-finish banner. There's your trackside banners. There's the car wraps, wrapping the competitors' cars or wrapping the players' cars. In the performance shop, where a lot of our players spend a lot of their time modifying, upgrading, customizing their cars, there's a lot of places there that we can have brands interacting with the players. And this is something that we want to do more, and we start bringing in not just automotive brands. We can start bringing in various kind of consumer brands, whether it's drinks, whether it's fast-moving consumer goods, whether it's devices. So these sorts of things, the brands that kind of resonate well with our audiences. We have a great targeted audience that really kind of fits with these types of brands, and we want to deliver it. Like I said, our audiences are expecting this. So we started thinking about this. The next problem that we had is, how do we price this? And I'll be very honest with you guys, we haven't figured this out 100% yet. These are some of the challenges that we're still considering. So using the kind of the ad units that you see here, what's worth more? A start-finish banner that a player sees for about 3 to 5 seconds at the start of the game, and they're not looking at anything else? Or is it 100 trackside banners that they see during the game, but they're not looking at them as much? These are the kind of things that we're starting to worry about. Or, the car wraps, the decals. Is it more valuable to a brand to wrap all the competitors' cars with that brand, or is it more valuable to wrap the player's car? So, like I said, we're still working through this. We're working with some of our brand partners to figure out how might we do this. And here's some of the other places that you can that you could potentially put these sorts of branding units in. So for now, we're doing this in-house because we just don't have all the answers, and we haven't found a good solution for this globally. And like I said, we have all these challenges of, what should we charge for this? What is the value of this, a monetary value of this? And we want to work with certain brands where this kind of fits really well, where we can build a long-term relationship with them, as well, where they are willing to kind of explore a little bit and view this as a learning like we're doing. So trying to, not just make a quick buck for ourselves, we would like to make some money out of this, but also get them to help us figure out what is the best way to do this. One of the kind of nice things about doing this in-house for the time being is, unlike, say, banner ads on a game or interstitial videos, we can create bespoke ad units or branding units for our partners. So, for example, in the game today, you have mechanics in the performance shop. You hire mechanics, and the more mechanics you have, the higher quality mechanics you have, the faster they can do a repair or customization. And one of the things that you can do to make your mechanics happier, this is in the game today, this part of it, is you can buy them a coffee machine, right? And you buy them a coffee machine, they're happier. Today, that coffee machine vends unbranded coffee. Very soon, that coffee machine will be vending a branded coffee drink. It makes sense. This kind of feels to me like in-game native advertising 2.0, right? So not just slapping some ads in there, but actually bringing the brands into the game with a little bit deeper interaction. And these things may not just be monetary, the way that we work with brands. We would love to make money out of this. That's why we're all in this room today. But there are other ways that we can get value, that we can create value out of this. Some of the brands that we work with have a much larger reach through their owned media, through their own channels, than we could ever hope to get. So we're quite happy to work with certain brands to say, okay, look, McLaren being a great example of that first kind of step down that path, to say, look, we'll create a video, we want to show off your brand within that video as an example, but we want you to use all your channels. We want to leverage the reach that you guys have that we would never have ourselves. So that's kind of some thinking that we start bringing into the branding thoughts. Now, unfortunately, I'm standing in front of you guys about a month and a half too early to be able to tell you everything about our next campaign. We have a stunt coming up with a major, well, I should say a small, but very well-known hypercar manufacturer. So one of the kind of most expensive cars in the world that you can think of. And this will be a full 360-degree campaign. So not only will it have the car itself, we will have YouTube influencers. It will be through social media. It will be through various kind of streaming platforms. There will be a real-life aspect to this as well. The hypercar manufacturer, that cannot be named today, will be announcing the car about 2 weeks after we bring the car into the game. So you'll actually be able to play the car in the game with a bit of camouflage over it, like the camouflage you see when cars are still out testing on Nürburgring or whatever. You'll be able to play it 2 weeks before the car actually gets available to, becomes announced. Now this is that idea of being able to do something far larger than we would ever be able to do on our own. This will have a lot larger reach than we'd be able to do. And this is the kind of things that we love to be able to work on. And understanding the kind of motivations of all the different partners that come into this. So one of the challenges that we continue to face with this particular stunt is we have a number of different brand partners, not just a car manufacturer. As I mentioned, there's YouTube influencers. There are some other other brands involved in there as well. And we have to make sure that all of their motivations, all their drivers are all in alignment, and that ours are there as well, that we get to tag along on that. So we're getting there. We are getting a little bit better at that. So where's the future, right? What's kind of next? Marketing and advertising in the gaming world is still kind of a bad word, right? Because the experience often is pretty shitty, to be honest. So we're trying to change that. We actually do believe there is a bright future for this, but it has to be done in a sensitive manner. So, when we're working with brands, we really do want to work in the near term only with those brands that really fit with our audiences, right? It's not just putting something in, I don't have a good example, putting a brand in there that wouldn't resonate with our audiences. And also, as I said, one of the things that we're getting a bit better at is understanding the motivators of our brands. So not just what's in it for us, what can we do for them to make their brand better? And not just kind of putting it in front of different folks, putting it in front of our audiences. We also need to get better. In fact, the presentation just before me talked about data. We definitely need to get better at using the data that's available to us. And I say we, I mean us as Eden Games, but probably also we as an industry. Just to use kind of the next example, and this is a very simple example, but that coffee machine I mentioned to you guys. Right now, all the brand exercises that we do in the game are available in the game to every player in the world, wherever we are. We don't do any kind of localization. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Really, that coffee machine, if you're in the US, that should be Starbucks, right? If you're in Canada, it should be Tim Hortons. If you're in Latin America, it should be Juan Valdez Coffee, right? So that's the kind of things that we need to get better at. And by doing that, we can create a global campaign, but with very local aspects to it that again, make better sense to the audiences there. The last area that we're trying to learn more about and get better at is that in real life side of things. So I mentioned this last kind of top secret event. It has very much a real life component to it. And that makes sense. With sports don't just exist in the digital world, don't just exist in real life. We want to cross over between those. And I think to that next step, esports is probably a very natural kind of thing that we should be moving into, and it's very definitely on our radar as where that kind of in real life, bringing in very committed audiences and bringing in brands that kind of resonate with those audiences. It feels like a very natural fit for us. So anyways, that's the learnings that we've had. I hope there's inspired some interest for yourselves, some thoughts on yourselves. Any questions?
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
The advertising you do, is that all CPM based?
No. Without giving away the whole model of it, I can say there is an assumed CPM component to it, but really it's At the very top level, it's a bespoke amount. We say, okay, look, here's the amount, here's what the campaign's gonna look like, here's some metrics that we can measure, was this successful or not? And CPM can be part of that. But this is where the challenge I was mentioning earlier about maybe looking at the units. You know, how do you do, if we have 100 trackside banners of a brand on a game, is that 100 views, or is that one? You know, we don't have the knowledge of how to do this with a brand yet to be able to kind of price it that standardized yet. That's where we want to get to. Absolutely, it makes very good sense too. But I think the whole industry is a bit too immature to be able to do that today. And that kind of, just one more thing to say, that kind of naturally kind of follows from the way that that native advertising deals are done in the movie and TV world. There's no kind of CPM models. There's some metrics to that again, but they're usually very bespoke kind of pricing on those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does that mean then that all your ad inventory is directly sold, like you just have direct relationships with brands?
Yeah. Yeah, it's horrible. We know, like I said, we're a tiny little company. I'm the only person in the company doing this. We don't want to have to do this. We're not doing this because in the near term, we're doing this in the near term because it makes sense and it helps us do stuff. But long term, we don't really want to be able to do this or have to do this. We'd really like, it'd be great if we could just put in some certain standardized ads. Those billboards is a great example, like we did with Massive 10 years ago, right? You know, we're having to do this today because there isn't a solution for us. So yeah, we have to go out and do those deals individually. Now, right now, it does make sense. Longer term, a company our size is not going to be able to do that forever.